Good morning. Welcome to this week's A Sunday Thought. In the last few days, we've had a heat wave here, and so the coolest place is with my AC going and watching some movies. As I watched the movies, what I discovered was several of the characters sort of had this attitude of being self-important, really feeling like I know that I'm important. Well, often we would call it as an ego state. And I began to contemplate on how we respond very often in regarding to defensive way, and a defensive way, because it is a defensive element. And so I thought I'd look it up in the dictionary, as I often do on Sunday morning thoughts. And basically it says serving to defend or to protect. That's what defensiveness is. Made or carried on for the purpose of resisting attack. And there is a key. But the most important was the very, very last comment at the bottom, because it fits into something that I have discovered some time ago. And it said, excessively concerned with guarding against the real or imagined threat of criticism, injury to one's ego, or exposure of one's shortcomings. I just absolutely found that was really, really a good example. I began to realize many years ago that when we ran into people with an ego saying, I'm important, I'm great, it's an attitude they put off, that very often that what they really were hiding or covering up was an insecurity, number one. And actually, if you go further down into that insecurity, you'll find really you're either feeling you don't want people to know that you feel unloved or that you're not good enough. And so I began to just kind of think that we really need to recognize that underneath this is the feeling of not being good enough. In particular, feeling unloved is equal. And actually, I should point out, to feel not good enough comes from the mental or the intellectual side of you, and the feeling unloved is the feeling side of you. And they're actually at the bottom of everything. And so it's important to understand that. And I think we need to take a look at how do we protect that? How do we hold that so that it is not visible to other people? Of course, it is visible by your actions, by your energy, and many other ways. But it's like we will go to do anything to protect that part of us that says we're not good enough, and I don't want people to see that. I don't want people to know that. And that's a sign of growth, when we are able to acknowledge to ourselves those feelings and hopefully transform those into being much more aware. And I began to find, when I began to work myself with that many, many years ago, and it's been a long time working away at noticing all the little kinks I may have had in my armor and which other people have. So because of that fear of criticism, which often we had as a child, we will do anything than to save that. And the key is that we cannot be open-hearted when we've got a defensive shield that we don't want people to see our vulnerabilities. We are vulnerable. We do have that sense of, oh my goodness, I don't want people to know this. Maybe a few friends, that might be okay. But we don't want the world to see that. But we're all the same. We're all on a path, on a journey to understand who we are and how we come together within ourselves first and then with others. And this is why we take time for our own personal spiritual growth. Some people take a personal growth path. Some people will take a spiritual path. I like to think I took both paths because they kind of interlock. And when you have, actually, I'm going to just stop and retract a bit. I was having a conversation with a friend, and was noticing a few things. We were just making comments about things. And I mentioned, one of the things I realized is that in knowing that there is a force of energy that loves me beyond measure, that is there for me, it has in some ways made me stronger in others. But I must admit, there are still times when I get a little nervous about, and probably in some way, but comes more from nervousness, as I sit and think about it here and right in this very moment. rather than a big lot of defensiveness. That, I don't want to be, nobody likes being criticized. But I think when we feel safe and comfortable within ourselves, people can, you don't feel so threatened by what's going to come from the outside. That is theirs. You begin to realize that is their interpretation, that is their perception, and there is awareness. But what I was going to suggest on this Sunday thought is that we do take a moment or two to take a look at where we have defensiveness action in our lives. Where are we protecting ourselves? What is the vulnerability inside that we want to protect? What is it that says we're not good enough, that we're unlovable if we do this, or if we have this different idea from somebody else? All those things. And so as you check that out with yourself, just know that you're loved. I don't know why I always cough when I do these things. Know that you're loved. Know that there is a force and an energy that supports you, that loves you, that cares about you, and really, truly wants you to succeed, because that's what they're there, to support you. And if you don't have that, there are many exercises you can do to find that lovingness and that awareness that is there always to support you, so that you can become the person that you truly are meant to be. Thank you for listening. I'll be back on Wednesday. I really want to thank you for those that are subscribing. I appreciate it. And remember, you can always contact me through my website, normacowie.com. Many blessings on this Sunday morning.